take a couple seconds for the sound to hit our microphones a few miles away, but we will let you enjoy the beautiful launch sounds in just about 10 seconds from now. You can now see the rainbows at water suppression at the base of the rocket starting up. Next, we'll keep an eye out for ignition of those 9 Merlin 1D engines. We have ignition and liftoff of Spainsat Ng1, a new generation for Spain to space.
¡Ole! ¡Despegó! ¡Ojo! El otro va más lentito, pero ya ha despegado. Ya ha despegado. Ahí va para arriba. Ahí va para arriba. Es ahí de Made in Spain. Se va para arriba. Se va para arriba. A ver qué pasa. Nice. Very nice. Va nice.
An absolutely beautiful vapor cone just before hitting max Q. Falcon 9 going through the maximum aerodynamic pressure it will face during that launch portion. Oh my gosh, that was absolutely stunning to see that vapor cone. We are now 1:45 into flight. Next up
really
will be
clear skies today.
Oh, beyond clear and stunning. You can see that plume expansion as it gets to the thinner parts of the atmosphere and the amazing colors from it.
Amazing
Next up,
21st and last flight for the booster.
what a send-off for it, too. Stunning. Next up, 3 events in rapid succession, starting with MECO, main engine cutoff, when those 9 Merlin engines shut down, followed by stage separation of the first and second stage, and then second engine start 1 when they ignite the Merlin vacuum engine. We're about 20 seconds away from that. Gorgeous blue color, too. I mean, shout out to the team at the Cape for spectacular sound and continued great tracking work here. Any second, we should see main engine cutoff.
Wow.
There it is.
That is MECO. Next up will be first and second stage separation. And keep an eye out there. That looks like ignition of the Merlin vacuum upper stage engine. So we have SES-1. Exactly what we want to see. And with that, we say farewell on this booster's 21st and final flight. It served its job very well. And this is the slight delay replay from SpaceX's feed there. And that is engine ignition on that second stage. That is what we love to see. And I see all the 07s, the 07 salutes in chat for the Valiant Booster 1073-21. Look at that. The plume expansion on that second stage. Unbelievable.
There's fairing separation. Look at that. Did you see that?
Yeah, you could actually see it in the plume.
Wow.
So yes, those are those 2 fairing halves that protect the payloads during the actual launch process. Once you get into space and they're no longer needed, just like you see there in the replay, they are jettisoned. And these have been reflown, right, Alex?
Come again?
These have been reflown, those fairing halves, correct?
Yes, one has flown for... so they are flying for an 8th time and a 5th time on these 2 fairing halves.
And there is a boat downrange to actually pick them up, to scoop them up and fly them another time, and that would be Bob.
Yep.
That, by the way, still continuing to track from the ground. That is Gage, who you saw just a couple of minutes before launch there waving, continuing to track this flight. Absolutely beautiful. That is what it looks like from the tracker's perspective, by the way, of trying to keep that in frame, the joystick there. Amazing work.
Definitely better than with a trackpad.
Yeah, that is true. That's how he normally does it, is with like a laptop trackpad. That is impressive. So normally at this point, we'd be saying, oh, what's happening with the first stage and all of that? What is the burn time for the second stage, though?
Well, the second stage is going to be burning until about T plus 8 minutes. And then we're going to have another burn at T plus 26 minutes, which it's going to last about 1 minute or so to put the satellite into that geostationary transfer orbit. But unfortunately, the first stage should be coming back down right now and about to burn up in the atmosphere.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's also very strange. I'm looking at my timeline up. All right, when is the entry burn? When's the landing burn? Confirming all of that, and we have none of that.
Yeah.
Tell me that's not strange, Alex. It feels weird, doesn't it?
It does. And like, right now we will be preparing for the entry burn. It will be with fighting fire with fire and whatnot. But right now, I think the atmospheric fire will win this time around. Yeah, there's not going to be fire. It's just fire.
Yeah. Fighting fire with the giant crate metal. Yeah, we know who wins that one.
Yeah.
6.5 minutes into flight. It's also cool because normally we don't get to focus on the second stage here with the full-size, I'm happy to say, Merlin vacuum engine.
Yeah, that's the great thing of this mission, is that you don't get the stubby nozzle.
For those who don't know, SpaceX has two different types of nozzles. There is the full-length one that you see here, and a much shorter length one, which we here at NSF have nicknamed the stubby nozzle, which is able to, again, get payloads into space, but it doesn't have as much oomph, shall we say, behind it. It doesn't have as much delta V that it can use. So for payloads that are lighter, they can use the stubby nozzle. They cannot for a crazy heavy payload like this. So we see the full-sized nozzle.
Still tracking that second stage.
We're about 40 seconds away now from the scheduled engine shutdown.
It went away.
Still not bad. And again, a reminder, the SpaceX feed is on a slight delay compared to ours, hence why the clocks do look a little different, why there is that slight delay on it.
And you might notice that it's going to be shutting down at T plus 8 minutes, when usually on a Starlink launch, it is 8.5 or even close to 9 minutes. And that is precisely what's going on here. Instead of burning for all that time, there's a little bit reserved there, and that's what they're going to be using for that second burn, that minute long burn, in about 20 minutes from now.
And we should be coming up on SECO, second engine cutoff 1. So keep an eye there now. 164 kilometers in altitude, with shut off any second now at over 27,000 kilometers an hour. Beautiful. You can still see the red hot glow of the metal. What is the metal that's made of, Alex?
That's niobium. At least an alloy of niobium.
Still glowing red hot. 27, look at that, 27272 kilometers an hour, 164 kilometers in altitude. And that's the speed for a parking orbit in low Earth orbit, and then you have another burn to get into that geosynchronous transfer orbit. Yeah. And again, that will coast for a bit. We will work on pulling replays of the launch in the meantime, as we continue to wait for satellite deploy, which is supposed to happen a little over 31 minutes into flight. So not that long from now, a little over 20 minutes from now, is satellite deploy. Julia, do we have you back on comms?
Hello, Stoyer. Yes, I am back.
How was that one?
That was pretty. I enjoyed that. Thoroughly enjoyed that, actually. and I'm going to edit a
Nice.
photo to share because I got one of those too. But it was a gorgeous launch. The sky lit up kind of like our midnight sun rising and reflecting off of the lagoon. So I'd say that's a beauty.
Yeah, obviously you didn't get to see an entry burn.
Well, no, but like Gage saw it going downrange, it was that clear of a night, and sounds like Gage had it tracked way far downrange for the second stage.
Yeah, pretty much almost all the way to Miko, or to Seco, excuse me. Definitely had to
Wow.
Miko. Very well done, Gage and Cape Team. I know we've got some awesome photos. I've already seen the preview of at least one of them in the back channel. Exciting stuff to come, and of course the launch replays to come, including that track review. So lots to stay with here as we wait the next couple minutes here for one final engine burn and then the deployment of Spainsat
27 minutos y 43 segundos después del lanzamiento. Y luego, nada, 4 minutos después, menos de 4 minutos después, se produce la liberación del satélite. Así que, bueno, de momento todo parece ir bien, ¿no? Vamos. Lautaro Mitchell, Daniel Resoalve. ¿Cuál te hiciste fan de SpaceX? Pues pregunta Tobías, pues hace muchos años ya, muchísimos años. La verdad es que no me acuerdo, pero me acuerdo que estaban haciendo... Bueno, no sé si es lo primero, pero... Evidentemente no habían llevado astronautas.
They needed the performance for this because it's a 6-ton payload, and you know, for that kind of mass, the satellite will not go into a traditional geosynchronous transfer orbit, and so they need that extra performance. When they have to land the booster, they need to reserve some of that propellant, and so they just shut down the engines earlier than it would for, you know, a complete burn. And so that's why, you know, they need that extra performance. That reserve propellant needs to be burned in order to get that extra push to get the satellite into that orbit.
Yes, also a certain person in chat named EJ_SA is saying, so we can blame Alex for booster 1073 getting expended?
Hey, don't blame me.
That's mean. Funny, but mean.
Era al principio cuando lanzaban el Falcon 1, leyendo a Daniel Marín, el blog de Daniel Marín, se imaginó hace años que publica Daniel Marín, pues los comentarios de esos primeros intentos de lanzar
the Path satellite that I mentioned before with Tintin A and Tintin B, the booster was also expended. There was also another, but that was with Hispasat, not Histasat, but still a Spanish satellite, which was Hispasat 30W6. It was a Block 4 booster. It was new, and it was expended because of bad weather. So, yeah.
Yeah. Not necessarily intentionally expended.
Yeah, it was supposed to be recovered, but they were not able to do that, so it was expended.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. So, stage 1, whatever didn't burn up, will now end up at the bottom of the ocean, and we say farewell to that booster. As they continue this, I know we were
talking
más
de cerca, ¿no? A mirar lo que estaban haciendo,
you know,
cuando Elon Musk hizo por allí por
and then throw it back to try and save it to be able to reuse these things a bit quicker. Crowdsurfer is wondering, Alex, what changes have been made to make pad turnaround times so much quicker?
Well, one of the few things that at least I can imagine might be happening is reinforcements everywhere. Like being able to know, like launching a lot lets you know where things wear out more every launch, where things get more damage and things like that, and so you can get ahead of that and protect them, right? Being able to spray the water maybe a second earlier or a second later to optimize the way that they are protected during a launch environment. So those kinds of things, and also streamlining the way that the refurbishment process goes. Because if you just sit around and do inspections and things like that, and it takes 3 days just for the inspection and then another week for refurbishment, then of course the launchpad is not going to be turned around quicker, right? You need to find optimizations there on those processes, running things in parallel, for example, instead of doing one and then going to the next. So of course that's part of the process, and we're gonna see that as well with Starship, and we're seeing that already with, you know, Pad A. Pad B is designed differently, and so is with, you know, with the Falcon 9 launch pads.
Yeah, and I mean, it's crazy at 40 they've been able to get the turnaround down to it feels like an average of 3 to 4 days, and 4 days seems like a long time.
Yeah.
But 39A still kind of tends to be the trouble child of the two, right? Where that one tends to last closer to what?
5-6 days. Yeah, today was 8 days and 20 hours of turnaround time. But still, that's quite nice. Like there's not a lot of other launch pads out there that can say they're being turned around in 8 days, like in a regular sense, right? Not like a one-off kind of thing. Because of course there are, like, you know, old Soviet launch pads that were turned around in 24 hours, but it's like, yeah, but that was one time or maybe 2 times. This is happening dozens of times each year.
It's impressive, just as impressive as these launch replays are. With our remote cameras that we have there at the KSC press site. We talked about it. I mean, Julia, these replays are the perfect definition of turning night into day. It's hard to describe, right?
Yeah, it's hard to describe. And for
El caso
me,
es
night
que,
launches are special because
bueno,
the very
ahora se
first
ve,
launch I ever saw
ahora se ve
when
pues
I
que
moved here
podría estar eso,
in
¿no?
2016
Si eres
was a night launch.
un poco
So,
a lo mejor más realista o
I mean, I
pesimista, puedes
I
decir eso.
favorite
40,
them.
50 años.
Unless they're
SpaceX
in the
lleva
middle of the night when I
22
should be
años de vida,
sleeping.
22, 23
But yeah,
años.
it's
Bueno, este
hard
año
to
cumple
describe
23 años
unless
de vida.
you've been here for it. But
Se fundó en el
the
2002.
foreground in front of you,
Una empresa que,
I don't know, it's kind of, it's even
con
more so
Pedura y
than the
30.
moon lighting up the sky.
Oh yeah, the moonlight feels like someone turning the actual light on above you. And I agree, I am a sucker for night launches, because yes, my first one was also a night launch, STS-130, but then something about streak shots too. I don't know what it is. Julie, I don't know if you agree. There's something about seeing a streak shot showing the path of the launch that you can only get at night that really speaks to me.
Exactly. They're not as sexy as an engine shot, right? But they do tell a unique story. It can be a story about the launch itself, or a story about the area where you are, and the place that we live. So, hey, if you see a streak shot on our shop.nasaspaceflight.com, those tell a great story and look great on your wall too.
Jumping in the water there. When it was super bright like that, you can actually see little blips in the water. Those are for the fish jumping from the vibrations. It's one of the
I
coolest
can
things.
certify dogs bark, fish jump, birds fly away, and occasionally, depending on where you are, the gators will make noises at you. Do not be where the gators are during a launch, okay?
And what kind of noise do humans do when Falcon 9 launches?
Ooh,
It's a very
pretty.
strange animal, right?
Yeah, we are kind of strange. Although I can say the noise we make is usually one we're making as our phone is up to the launch. So if you ever do come to experience a launch, do me a favor, put your phone down and just enjoy it.
Yes, absolutely. That is the biggest recommendation. I was given that on my first launch. One of the guys who worked at had White Room as the closeout crew was talking to him about it, and his one piece of advice was, for your first launches, don't worry about photos. It's like, there are people out there whose job it is professionally to take such good photos that are better than anything you'll take on your first try. So just be there, enjoy it, soak it all up. And I agreed with that 1,000,000%. I'm glad I did. And yet here I am now with Julia, Max, and Dee, and everyone out there being those people that gets those professional photographs now. It's a weird turn of events, but even then, I still try when I'm taking photos to look over the camera real quick just to take in the reality of what's happening versus just the lens and the screen. Awesome. Great replays here.
That was
watching everything going on there. I love you can see the two of them, and like we were just talking about, soaking it in reality. You can see Das leaning back there, taking it looks like a cell phone shot actually. Right through Max Q there in the vapor cone. That vapor cone is also really cool to see. By the way, for those just joining, we are about 10 minutes away from the reignition of that second stage engine, the Merlin vacuum, for about 1 minute before deployment of the Spainsat Ng1 satellite. Yeah, this is an ultra-wide shot from the fantastic D-Wise. Oh, I could just stare at these for hours. It's hard when you're a commentator because you're supposed to be talking over it. But what do you say, Alex? What do you say?
I don't know. It's a lot of things right now. Oh, look at that. Behind the scenes.
So if you look, you can actually see the rocket on the screen there. So if you want to see what the track looks like behind the scenes, you can see Gage doing the physical tracking, but keep an eye on that little monitor there for the actual liftoff. And I did see Gage take a quick sneak peek at the actual launch itself. You see every now and then the look over. I do something similar, except I look over my camera instead of to the side of just, you gotta keep following it. You go where you think it's going, but you look away for half a second so you can actually go, okay, that is a real rocket in front of me. But yes, everyone in chat, shout out to Gage Rough Rider Show for a spectacular tracking job with this awesome break here. And here is the beautiful close-up replay of the launch, in fact. So we've gotten the behind the scenes, now we've got the real thing. Love seeing the ice falling off of it. So just the way the light's hitting tonight, get that cool glowing expansion. The best, keep an eye out for that vapor cone. So that was about, what, a minute, 15 seconds into flight? Which, for those who don't know, Alex, what is a vapor cone?
Well, you have the rocket going a lot of, through the atmosphere at very high speeds, and so the condensation on the air just essentially, goes from gas to to very little liquid droplets, and so it's a very sudden thing, and there you can see that transition happening. I don't know what other kind of analogy I could make of this, but essentially it's this transition that happens, and you can see the contrail as well. The exhaust plume kind of makes a very similar thing where it interacts with the gaseous water in the atmosphere and condenses it, and so it produces that plume. And as it goes further up, the water it stops being there in the atmosphere because it's going very, very high up. And that's why it disappears, as it just did a few minutes ago.
That perfect transition. Oh, I mean, you gotta love it. It's the atmospheric conditions have to be just right to be able to see it super clearly. It can happen sometimes where it'll be a much smaller one. Poof, I guess. It's just stunning. And again, shout out to Gage for an awesome job with this track. Continuing all the way through main engine cutoff, by the way, Vico. You're able to see that. You're able to see fairings fall away from it, so gorgeous colors too. While we continue to watch the replay on the left, Alex, what's happening with the Berlin vacuum engine on the right as we hit Miko on the replay?
Yeah, right now it is getting chilled down, sort of like, the same thing as when it is about to light up for the first time, but this time is for a second time, and so that you can see there that venting coming out from the what's it called, the bleed line essentially, and so that line
en el anterior directo, creo, es esta primera etapa que ha fenecido, ¿no? que ha muerto hoy, después de 21 vuelos que no se ha intentado recuperar. La vimos por última vez, además de hoy, durante el lanzamiento, la vimos cómo la llevaban a la zona de lanzamiento,
are firing to be able to settle down those propellants. Remember, this is in 0G or microgravity conditions, so the propellants are currently, floating around on the tank, and you don't want that when you are about to let up the engine. So they fire those settling thrusters on the second stage to be able to get those propellants on the bottom of the tank. One of the things that I love though is once we see that relight of the MVAC engine of solid oxygen that's gonna it's forming there and it's gonna fly off and get burned by the exhaust of the engine, which I always find hilarious and very interesting to see. But yeah,
we saw one little bit of ice chunk fall away there already. And what is that snow, by the way?
Yeah, that's this gaseous oxygen. It gets released. It cools down, and since it's in a vacuum, it doesn't go into a liquid. It just goes straight to ice. So there you can see, bye, solid oxygen. If it weren't so cold, I would love to play with some solid oxygen. But yeah.
Yeah, don't lick that. That's
geostationary transfer orbit.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then the
waiting right now for the last seconds as the flight computer counts down to the ignition of the engine.
Systems that need to be protected of space and things like that.
There we go. Absolutely stunning to watch. Also stunning, we have the photos from our field team coming up. Nice. We have a very special treat. There's two photos that are
ignition of the MVAC-D engine.
One that is so good that
now this burn's going to last about 67 seconds.
NASAspaceflight.com
for a geostationary mission.
Stick around.
If you're watching the speed gauge on the right-hand side of the
there of the Merlin vacuum engine as well.
And we saw that ice falling off and getting roasted by the MVAC engine exhaust. Yeah. And look at the speed just, climbing up, going. I believe it needs to go up until 33,000 to 35,000
kilometers an hour, which is still
when we had a lot more propellant on board.
Seco, 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 seco. Un sueño.
Engine now throttling down, decreasing the loads on the spacecraft as we're coming up, and we have SECO 2.
Nominal orbit insertion.
And there's the big call out for the day. Nominal orbit insertion. Second stage in its second burn has put the spacecraft onto the desired trajectory. You can see right now 400 kilometers, 440 kilometers in altitude. We're headed to an orbit much higher than. Next up, we're going.
Again, stay tuned. We have that
stage.
Photo coming. We've got a couple
of the Spainsat Ng1
one of them is
spacecraft.
You are not going to want to
We've got a couple of minutes before that happens.
To be able to see that along with the Spainsat Ng1 Halo jettison / separation. What's going to happen to the second stage, by the way, Alex?
Well, the second stage will remain in this sort of kind of orbit. It's not so once the satellite deploys, it'll passivate itself, essentially venting off all of the remaining propellant and draining its batteries. But other than that, it's not going to do any more engine burns. It's just going to stay in this orbit. Eventually, because the lowest point of this orbit is very close to the atmosphere, it'll be brought back down, but uncontrolled, and pretty much like you will not be able to really tell far in advance where it'll fall, but you know.
But yeah, likely not overpopulated areas is the
Exactly.
main thing. But one thing that is popular, at least, are these streak shots like we were just talking about. Julia, awesome work with this one. I love the marine contradiction with it, considering there were no marine assets to recover the booster.
Well, true, but it's an ode to the Atlantic, or the ocean, shall we say, that this booster is landing in.
Amazing work, by the way, as always. I love your shots, Julia.
Thank you, Sawyer.
And we have another fantastic shot. This one from Max Evans out in the field. Again, pretty appropriate with the communications satellite on its way to have a communications satellite in view as well over at the Kennedy Space Center. And if you want to view this on your wall, you can. It is now available as a metal print at shop.nasaspaceflight.com. You can see the title there, Into the Drink. You can even see the vapor cone, where the vapor cone started if you go back up along the streak. Right there. You can see it in the streak itself, which is pretty darn cool as well. So definitely worth checking out. It's available as a metal print as well as a poster.
Yeah.
Great job as well, Max.
Vamos, que llega el deploy.
There, 39A, the transporter erector already vertical
NG2
again.
will be placed in a geostationary position at 30 degrees west longitude later this year.
Deploy.
The Spainsat satellites will replace the existing Spainsat launched in 2006 and the XTAR EUR launched in 2005.
Vamos. Vamos.
The view right now looking up from the camera on the second stage mounted on the payload attached fitting. You're looking at the bottom of Spainsat Ng1.
Let's go, motherfuckers. Vamos. Vamos.
And we're waiting for payload deploy.
Deploy. Deploy.
Spainsat Ng1 deploy confirmed.
Deploy. Toma. Nice. Oh my god.
Avionics engineer calling out successful deploy. You can see it on the screen. Springs pushing the second stage and the Spainsat Ng1 spacecraft away from each other. And with that successful deploy of Spainsat Ng1 satellite, it begins its journey to its final destination. With that, that's going to wrap up our coverage for today. In 2000, all of us at SpaceX want to give a big thank you to our customer Istasat. We also want to give a shout out to the Eastern Range, Kennedy Space Center, and the Federal Aviation Administration for supporting today's launch. And as always, thanks to all our viewers for logging on and your continued support. Be sure to follow us using @SpaceX on X for mission updates. I'm John Hitzberger.
De la
See you
velocidad.
again soon.
Aquí es Esteban.
De Málaga, Truji 18, de nada. Y RRO 69 pregunta, al no recuperar la primera etapa, el lanzamiento será más caro para la empresa de satélite, ¿no? En principio, teóricamente sí, pero podría ser que no también. Depende un poco de las negociaciones particulares. Pero lo que está claro es que es más caro para SpaceX, porque no pueden recuperar la primera etapa.